Hey, what's up, everybody? Trey Griggs here, Beta Consulting Group, for episode 52 of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership, powered by Beta Consulting Group. Thanks for joining us today. Coming to you from Prairie Creek Campground, right outside of Rogers, Arkansas, really close to Beaver Lake. Never been in Northwest Arkansas? Phenomenal place here. Phenomenal spot in the northwest of Arkansas. And we just had the Freightways conference, which was awesome. So I'm out in the woods today, as you can see, having a great time with the family. But of course, the show must go on. So thank you for tuning in today. We got a great guest today. Can't wait to bring him on. Also, huge shout out to our partners over at TAFS. These are the good guys in freight factoring. They're the ones that are helping carriers really understand how to be financially responsible and have all the resources they need to really grow their business in any market. So check them out at tafs.com. If you're a carrier, they can help you out with your financial aspect of it, your tires, your fuel, all those kind of things. If you're a freight broker, you can be a referral partner, and help your carriers make sure they have all the resources they need to thrive in any market. So check them out at tafs.com and tell them that Trey sent you. Had a great show at Freightways the last couple of days. Got to see a lot of awesome people in the industry that were there. My boy Brent Orsuga was there. Obviously, the people from Freightways with the truck, Timothy Dooner, Michael Vincent, Craig Fuller, all those guys there as well. Blythe Brumley. It was an awesome show. There's some highlights coming that we'll have for you later on. But make sure you check us out in November. We'll be in Chattanooga for the Freightways Live, the Future of Freight conference down there, which is going to be a lot of fun as well. And then, of course, we got a couple more great episodes this week. So tomorrow on Standing Out, my boy Hayden Allred is going to be on the show. We do Iron Minds together every Monday morning. He's a really innovative, creative guy in the transportation industry. Great content. If you're not following him, come back tomorrow. We're going to talk about what he's doing in logistics tech sales, as well as we're going to be talking about our next Tough Mudder Charity Challenge. We're going to be raising some more money, which is going to be very exciting. So we'll talk about that as well. So come back tomorrow for episode 53 with Hayden Allred at 10:30 a.m. Central Time, right here on LinkedIn Live, YouTube, or Twitter. All right, everybody, it's time to bring on our guest today. Very excited to have this guy on. I met this guy relatively recently. And from the moment that we connected and got to hear his story, I knew that he was going to be somebody that I wanted to have on the podcast to tell his story. So very excited about that. And congratulations, Jim. You are the first comment. So thanks for watching today. Appreciate that. Always good to see your name pop up on there. But anyways, let's give it up for our guest today. I bring him on to the show. Everybody give it up for my friend Scott Watanabe, the Freight Sensei. Scott, what's up, brother? How are you, man?
I'm good, Trey. It's good to be here, man. How you been?
Dude, it's great to have you on the show. And, it's really been pretty recently that we connected and started talking. I don't know kind of when that happened, maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. I think we've been connected longer than that, but certainly started talking a little bit. And now you're a regular on The Word on the Street on Friday on the Street Crew, which is
it's been fun. I like that crew, especially. I've been following it a while, and I think my boy Chris Jolly kind of probably gave me a shout to bring it in. But everybody loves Chris Jolly. I met him at the ATG conference, Armstrong conference, back last year.
Yeah.
We connected right away because we were on the same. We're attempting to do the same thing, right? Train individuals how to be better brokers and overall, and try to bring the name, and as he says, making the trucking industry sexy again. So
exactly. And when Jamie, thanks for watching the show. Woo, Scott. So Chris is one of those guys too that, like, when you find people that are like-minded, you just want to surround yourself with them. Chris is so inspirational and very driven, and like you said,
Yes.
He wants people to be better. And that's one thing I love about you as well, is that you got that teacher coach mentality. You want to make sure that people have the tools they need to really succeed. So for those watching the show that don't know who you are and the Freight Sensei, where that came from, tell a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to dig into your story.
Yeah, man. Well, been working for the Armstrong umbrella since 2014. I worked directly for the United States Army Reserve as a personnel clerk. But I was in the reserves as well, so in the Army Reserves. I enlisted in 2000. But they came in 2013. They were doing those sequestering or furlough. Those two words started coming out in the industry, not in the industry, but in the world, in the news and everything. So I came to work one day and they said, you got 4 hours, send some emails and we'll call you when you get back. And I told myself, man, this is a government job. This shouldn't happen. And so I was telling my buddy about it and he says, hey, sorry, come over to this office, man. I think you might be good for this position just because your personality. And so I came over and the boss man at the time, he was literally sitting on booking trucks. He said, hey, sit down, call this guy. I'm like, what am I calling? He was asking me to call a flatbed or something. And but just looking around and seeing the buzz, there's only about 5 guys in the office at the time. And I kind of fell in love with it. So I did some soul searching, did some praying, talking to the wife, and I made the switch in March of 2014. I've been started out brokering freight, just one of the little guys making dials, connecting shippers and booking trucks, and started developing that relationship. And then our team started developing processes. And then soon enough, I became a director. They gave me a person and kind of grew that team and grew my processes. And overall, since then, we've grown from when I think I started around number 15, and now just here in Boise, we're close to 160 reps. And we've actually merged with the corporate office. And in 2019 is when I was approached as, hey, we like what you're doing. And we think you'd be a good part of, think you'd be a good face for this next department we want to open up. And it was the training department. I said, yeah, I love it. Bring it on. Let's do it. And so it started out with a plan, and it was my job just to implement it. And since 2019, I've been pushing out freight brokers out my ears. So it's hopefully it's been leading to the growth of our company. And I'd like to say I personally attribute it to the top 25, but no, we have a lot of agency offices out there that take a lot of that credit as well, because I'm training our internal, W-2 reps and our 1099 last year. They're taking advantage of some of my content because we developed Armstrong Academy. And so our outside agencies are able to utilize Armstrong Academy to start building up their offices as well. And so it's really cool seeing that product come to life, and with the different stages that we're growing it. And it's awesome seeing that growth.
Yeah, that's a great story. And, coming from the military background, the military does a little bit of training. They focus on training quite a bit,
Right.
to say the least. And so that had to have an impact on your career in terms of where you wanted to go. And as you started to come into a new company, or not new company, but at least like being one of the first people in there, and then moving up into where now you're part of training, how much did that influence of the military and how they take training impact how you're training reps now?
I think it helped a lot from coming from. So I just going back to the military, I just retired in March of this year. So 21 and a half years of.
Thank you for your service, man.
Hey, thank you for your support. I appreciate that. 2 deployments, one in 06, 07, one in 2010, 2011. From me being just a private growing into those leadership roles. And I left the Army as a platoon sergeant, in charge of anywhere from 15 to 20 guys. And I was also the next in line, hopefully to be the first sergeant of the company. But I decided to say, hey, I need to focus on my family. One, because I got 3 older teenagers, and then I have a 2-year-old. So my wife's like, let's not do that again. And I put my time in. I'm not really down for any more deployments. My body's saying no, and that way I can focus more on that career, my civilian career. And that's kind of at the time I started to get into more of the content and developing this Freight Sensei persona. So.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. Sam says Veterans Rock. I agree. And thanks for tuning in from Philadelphia. Rob Bussey from Chicago. Thanks for watching, buddy. Always good.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
We have in Chicago in beginning of June, man. So I'll try to catch up with him. That's right. So, yeah, no, it's really interesting to hear, your history of going through the military and the training that they have and how that impacts what you're doing right now. When did the Freight Sensei? When was that born? When did that come into being?
So I guess my first classmates, I should say, Jim. So a lot of props to Jim. When we had to go pandemic, so we started the training program in 2019, and in 2020, and during the pandemic, we had a group of 6-7 individuals, and we get them staggered every couple of weeks. And so we had one guy. He came in. We were all in the office for 2 weeks, and then we were told, "Hey, you got to go home." And so I was trying to train via remote, trying to do the whisper thing and coaching him over. It was hard, but we did it. We learned how to do it. And if it wasn't for my man Jim, who's our recruiter, he's like, we kind of slowed down on the recruiting. So I was like, "Hey man, can you help me out in the training team?" And so, he was my right-hand man all during the pandemic. And because he was there, he's been in the trenches doing the brokering as well. And so he helped out a lot. And when I was like, "Hey, I need to take care of this," we take care of this guy. But going back to the Freight Sensei, I had one guy, shout out to my boy Seth Nishad. He was in the training team, and he found out I was Japanese. He was the guy, always had the good attitude. He was the one that went around and made up handshakes for everybody on the team at the time.
Every team needs a guy like that. That's right.
Yeah, and so he kept the spirits up, but he was just like, "Oh, you Japanese? I'm like, you the sensei?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess I would be your sensei." And he's like, "You the Freight Sensei?" I'm like, "Oh man, I like that. That sounds good. I think I'm gonna roll with
clever.
that." So,
yeah, no, it's a good brand, man. I love it. I love the fact that you roll with that you have that on there. You have an Instagram account that's just the Freight Sensei, and you have a
I do
too.
I created that post or before Blythe said, "Hey, let's no need to create two different ones." I'm like, well, kind of. So I'm just doing the collaborative thing, and so it is what it is. Yeah. I'm trying to build it as well.
So anybody who's watching, if you're on Instagram, make sure you follow the Freight Sensei. And the other one is Scott_Watanabe, I believe, right?
Yeah, just Scott Watt.
Scott Watt, WTT. Yep. No, good follow, man. I love your content. I love what I love about you is that you'll be like walking in a parking lot, and I know that something probably comes in your mind, maybe some idea that you think is just worthy of sharing, and so you'll just share it on Instagram. And I think that type of content really does well because it's just authentic. Like, you didn't plan it. If it doesn't go well, you're probably gonna have a little hiccup here and there, but it's like live. It's like good content. It's like the real deal. I think it's what people really want. So if you're on Instagram, follow Scott as well as on LinkedIn as well, which is awesome. So a couple things I want to jump into. So first of all, when you think about training and onboarding, I think one of the places that a lot of companies really miss is they don't have a really well thought out plan or process when someone is new in the company, especially from a sales perspective, where salespeople need to experience a win pretty quickly. They need to see some success pretty quickly to have a good onboarding experience. How do you think about that from the standpoint of, Jim's recruiting people, you're training, you guys have grown tremendously on the sales rep side. How do you go about approaching that onboarding process? And what are your just overall thoughts about that being successful for people to have a successful career within your organization?
I like what you said about that instant success, because a lot of reps need that, especially in the takes me back to the Trucking for Millennials podcast I was on the last
great
month.
Guys over there,
yeah, they're so fun. But one of the things that they need because of the age we live in is that instant gratification. That so we try to coach, looks for some low hanging fruit, but we do that by allowing them to understand the freight side as far as booking freight. So we teach them the carrier sales side, so that way they know what they're doing and they know what they're talking about. And sometimes getting that first book and making a big deal about it, they that kind of boosts up their confidence. It's like, okay, now you've done that. Now let's go out and get the customers. Now that you know how to book that freight, and so that 100%. We agree on that confidence build. And so we have a process right now where it's we deal with the first week of the basics of what a freight broker is, go through some carrier sales stuff and negotiation, and have them book that first load, maybe two. And then the next week we start grinding 100% into the carriers, the prospecting side on the sales side, and the how to operate our CRM, and then cold calling. I got a cold calling 101 class right after this too, so it's super fun. What I like to do is I tell them, hey, for this class, You bring in me 2 prospects, I don't care what they're from, and they get to see the sensei live doing calls, and using my processes and some of the processes that we developed to try to penetrate that, go get through the gatekeeper and get into a decision maker, and then being able to hear it helps boost that confidence as well. Because if this old guy that's bald and old vet can do it, anybody can.
Well, I love what you said there about having them go through other processes first, like going through some of the operation side of things, understanding how the business actually happens. How do trucks get booked in your case? The best sales training that I went through, it was a month-long training before I ever hit the phones, because it was all about learning the operations, learning about the business, and understanding exactly what happened. So when I did get on the phone and a question came up that maybe I wasn't sure about, I had already sat in that seat, kind of felt that already a little bit. So the fact that they're booking trucks at the beginning is great. And I think for anything, it's having that expectations, having that roadmap. Like if you say, hey, first 2 weeks, you're going to be just booking freight. You're just going to be sitting down with carrier sales and learning how to book a truck. And maybe the next 2 weeks, you're going to be working with our customer service department, or 1 week or 2 days, whatever it is. But if you lay out those expectations.
Oh, we lost him.
And this is what happens when you're live.
You're live. I'm about to roll into something, Trey. I was going to be like, hey, this is this guy. This is the Freight Sensei show. Welcome to the Freight Dojo.
Hey, this is how it works. So I literally just touch the trackpad on my MacBook, and it does the whole thing where if you hit it the wrong way, it goes to the back page, which is a cool feature, except when you're on a podcast. So all apologies on that, everybody. I was like, where'd it go?
We're live.
But when you think about, training and onboarding, if you have a plan laid out and you can tell that to them, then their anxiety level comes down because they know what the expectations are. And then once they start hitting the phones, then they know, okay, now it's time to perform. Now it's time to get something across the finish line. And I love the fact that you're doing it with them. I think too many times leaders just have reps sit down just with another rep, and just hopefully they get it by osmosis, just sitting next to them, rubbing shoulders. This should just rub off. And there's a time to shadow. Shadowing is a really valuable part of the sales process. But having you as intricately involved as the leader, I don't think too many leaders are too busy or have too much stuff on their plate to actually dig into the trenches and be with their guys just like you do. But that's the military style, right?
Yeah, I loved how you introduced that. Like when you saw that, when you put that in there, being in the trenches with your guys, it's almost like, man, he's taking some of my background, because that's some of the leadership skills that I learned from leaders in the military. Is like, your guys will be more loyal to you. They'll trust you because they've seen you do it, and not because they've seen you from afar, because you were with them literally in the trenches. And so it really resonated in me when you put that on there, because I was like, oh man, he did his research.
Yeah,
leadership I tried to do, being in the military. There's so many what they call transactional leaders, where it's like, you do this wrong, do some push-ups, do this right, here you can go home early, or whatever they want. But actually being that more of the transformational leadership, and learning with them and helping them grow and coach and inspire them and find the fire within them is truly how you are going to become a great leader. And I believe your subordinates are going to see that, and they're just going to want to work that much harder for you.
Yeah, leaders definitely lead from the front. By the way, Jim, thanks for having my back. I appreciate you being willing to jump in if I needed you. But no, leaders lead from the front. I remember this when I was 24. I was the varsity assistant and JV basketball coach for a small little school out in Eugene, Oregon. It was a little bedroom community just outside called Elmira, and it was my first coaching opportunity. And I remember, I was reading Coach K's book on leadership. I was really kind of learning a lot about leadership from a coaching perspective. And one of the things that we did was, anytime one of our kids would cuss, because it happens, we would all run lines. But what we did, and I was fortunate enough at that time to be able to do this, I was 24, just out of college. But what we did was all the coaches had to run too, because that means that we failed as well. And so, what it did was, instead of the players feeling like we were penalizing them, they actually felt like they were letting us down a little bit, kind of that, it just carried the extra weight. This isn't just them versus us. It's this is us. And so when we hear, somebody cuss, we say, all right, let's get on the line. And with all the coaches, we get on the line too, and read run hard too. And what I found is, over time, we gained their respect in a way that we wouldn't have otherwise, because we were like, you know what? We all failed. This is a miss for all of us, because this is our standard. And we as a unit missed it. So we're all going to run, coaches included. And it was kind of unique and kind of weird. But after a while, I think that what we saw was they started to think a lot more about what they were doing, and they were trying to hit that goal. Instead of being mad at us, they were like trying to make sure they didn't make us run.
Yeah.
us oldies. I was the youngest one, but the older coaches probably didn't like it as much. But it was that idea of like, we're in this together. Like, it isn't just you. This is us. We're going to do this together. And if we miss, we miss together. If we win together. And it just created this bond that some leaders might say, well, I'm above that. Like, I'm not going to run. I'm above that. Or I'm not going to, I don't have to do that. I've put in my time. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. But I think great leaders understand that they got to be right in the trenches and lead from the front, and really gain the respect of their team and their people. And I love leaders who do that, leaders who are willing to go onto the floor of a manufacturing plant and get dirty with the people that are grinding every day. I love people who get on those cold calls and making those calls and just going through the awkwardness of trying to get past the DM, or, whatever the process might be. That really matters from a leadership perspective. And I love the fact that you take that approach, and the military is a great resource for that. But that makes a huge difference.
I love it. I think it truly sets them up, saying like, because I can literally tell them I started in your shoes, except for I didn't have a me, and for a while it was my team lead, which shout out to Matt Millenside. He is probably one of my favorite and best mentors in this position, along with some of the directors that are now on the sales floor that were raised with me, right? We're all on a sales team, and now all of the guys are on the same sales team as me. They're all team leads, right? They're all directors of their own teams, and it's awesome to see that in that transition, because of one guy had faith in all of us, and we were able to grow the company as it is now. So
yeah, no, so good, Joshua. It's a great point, about owning failure and sharing success. I heard at one time that great leaders take blame and give credit. Take blame and give credit. So that's just kind of the nature of it. I love watching sports coaches, the really good ones, when their team loses, and the only thing they say is, we didn't coach well enough. We didn't get them ready well enough. Like, it's on us. Whatever it is, I love it when coaches will take the blame, even though they didn't play one play, they didn't throw one pass, they didn't make one block. They're willing to take the blame when they don't do well, and they're willing to give the credit away when they succeed. I mean, that's the kind of person that everybody wants to follow, wants to be a part of. And so from a leader perspective, like, man, to take that idea and say, I'm gonna own this failure that we messed up. I'm gonna give credit for success where it's due. Like that to me, that is leadership, because to me, leadership is serving. It's like serving all your people, making sure they have what they need to succeed, making sure that you take care of them, look after them, help them do well. I love the Zig Ziglar quote. I say it all the time. You can have everything you want in life if you help enough people get what they want in life. And that's what the job of a leader really is.
I like that. I like the being a servant leader. I also I'm reading a book with some of our couple reps. We're trying to build up into leaders, being a gracious leader too, giving grace. It's not always coming down on them hard. It's figuring out what are we doing wrong or what are we doing right. I read or saw something about, it was what's his name, Michael Sinek. He was saying something like, okay, what's the difference between or picture two different scenarios. Man walks in the office and you're telling him, or your office, and you're telling him, hey, your numbers are low, your dials are low, you're doing this, get better or you're out. Okay, well, that's one type of leadership. Or, hey man, I've noticed your numbers are down, your KPIs are down. Is everything okay? Because we don't know. That's more empathetic leader, right? Because
absolutely,
we don't know what's going on with them. We don't know what's going on. There could be something that they don't even like to talk about, but you're opening it up, and now that you're empathizing with them, we can figure out how to help them on that side in order to bring them back to where we know their potential is.
Yeah, and it's harder to lead with empathy. It takes more time.
Very hard.
You might, it's a more of a long game leadership, because you might not, get the immediate results that you're going for. If you fear somebody into performing, you might get the results short term, but long term, I think you really miss out on the relationship with that person, helping them grow as a person. So I love that. I've heard that example before, and I think that's a really great example. So let me ask you a question about this, because I think this is interesting. So you've got 120 sales reps, something like that, a big team, but you've identified a small group that you've kind of targeted as potential leaders, is what it sounds like. And now you're going through a book. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the EQ Leader. We targeted, I think we have 3 in the class right now. And these are individuals that are either we given them a sales rep to start grooming, or they're the next one to start getting the next sales rep, instead of adding one of our newer sales reps to an existing team. We give them to these leaders.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to develop. Now this is stage 1. This is, I guess, the beta test. This is the first class. And so definitely things that we can work on. But as far as going, but it's a great book on how to become great leaders in any industry. Right now or this week, we're going through how to be an inspirational leader. Last week was be the coaching leader, and and so it takes the aspects of your emotional intelligence attributes, and tells which attributes are best for this type of leadership. And it compares to, hey, here's this type of leader, and here's this type of leader. This type of leader was more of an inspirational one. This one did horrible. Now HP is no longer a business, right? So it's a really cool book, and when hopefully my goal is also not only go through the chapters of the book, but we go through some industry specific leadership skills that they would need, not just how to be, here's your soft skills, or here's some soft skills that has to be industry specific. Like, well, how do you track your individual's KPIs? Like, what KPIs are you looking for now as a leader? One that, hey, when you were a sales rep, what your leader was looking at, how to track that. Just little things like that as well.
Yeah, but throw the book aside for a minute. I love the fact that you are identifying people that have potential for leadership, inviting them into leadership training to hopefully at some point promote them into leadership. Like, you have an intentional plan. I think too often people make the mistake in sales in particular. They take their highest performing salespeople and they say, hey, you're the next leader. Like just throw them into leadership. But the skills for sales production and the skills for sales leadership are 2 vastly different skill sets. Vastly different skill sets.
That's cool. Yeah, that's what we've learned over the last 10 some years, 8 years with me through the industry. Is like we've done that. Fortunately for us, we got lucky and chose those high yielding sales, and they happen to be good leaders at the same time. But we're not going to say that we did that every single time. We've made that I want to call it a mistake, that decision, early in our growth. But we're still taking those individuals through through the emotional intelligence class as well. So
it's not to say that high performance salespeople aren't great leaders. It's not to say
correct.
that, but it's to say that you have to look through the skills that they have. Are they a coach, kind of mentor? Do they have that desire to help other people be successful? Because some sales reps are cutthroat, like me, and that's what makes them a great sales rep. But they're just they're going after it. But that doesn't always make somebody a great leader, because it's a different priority when you're a leader. Like, it's no longer about your production; it's now about your team's production, helping them be successful. Exactly. And some people have that, and some people don't.
Another thing that we did too is not only we identified, but what helped us identify is those ones who presented themselves to us saying, hey, what is my next step? What can I do to be that guy? Okay, well, that's one of the things we take in consideration when assigning individuals to the mentorship classes. It's like, okay, this person is truly wanting to, instead of, oh, hey, he doesn't have to be a high performance sales in order to lead a team of high performing salesmen.
Yeah, it's important just to make sure you understand that distinction. It sounds like you guys have got a great grasp on that, which is awesome. Man, we're learning.
It's not a great grasp. It's a growing grasp, right? One other thing, we can't, Armstrong, we're not a perfect company. We're a good company. We're trying to be a great company.
There are no perfect companies out there, but you should strive for greatness, right? That's what you should strive for, is greatness, which is great.
Excellent.
So we're already at 30 minutes. I told you this would fly by. This went really fast. I appreciate your insights and all that. Excited about Word on the Street this Friday coming up. It's noon Central. We got Charlie Safro on the program on the Word on the Street on Friday at noon. So come back and check that out. Everybody's watching. It's going to be a great show. Charlie's one of the best. And it'll be good to see you again. We got Hayden Allred on tomorrow. another street crew member who's going to be back. So we'll have him
2
on
in a
tomorrow as
row,
well. So
almost 3 in
back
a row.
to back. I know, back to back. It's awesome, but really appreciate you being on the show. Hope you'll come back and see us again soon and talk more about what you're doing on the sales training side, and we'll discuss that. Love to hear.
Anytime.
So, what was the name of that book again? EQ Leader, is that right?
The EQ Leader.
The EQ Leader. Okay, cool. I'll have to look that one up. I haven't read that one yet, so that's an awesome book. So awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for watching. Jim, thanks for being here. Hayden, loved having you on. We'll see you tomorrow, buddy. And Jennifer, thanks for showing up as well. I've had quite a few people hop on the program today, which is great. But Scott, have an awesome day, everybody. It's hump day. Let's finish the week off really strong, and we'll see you guys on at 10:30 on Thursday for Hayden and Allred. We'll talk to you guys soon. Peace. See you guys.